Just back from his trip to Ukraine, Deputy Treasury Secretary Wally Adeyemo writing in the Financial Times op-ed the following. He says, it's time to step up our efforts to stop Russia's war footing, and that will require manufacturers to scrutinize their supply chains. Secretary Adeyemo joins us this morning. We're here in Washington, D.C. at the CNBC CEO Council Summit. It's great to see you this morning.
Great to see you too, Andrew. Thanks for having me.
So tell us what you really learned on this trip. What was the big takeaway for you?
So arriving in Kyiv, it reminded me of two things. One, of how brave and determined the Ukrainian people are, but secondly, how much of a strategic failure this is for Russia. When you remember in February of 2022, Russia thought they would have Kyiv within days and Ukraine within weeks, but standing there in Kyiv, you recognize that that isn't true and that the Ukrainian people are committed to fighting. And the reason I was there is to commit to them that the U.S. was going to stand beside them as they do that.
Okay, so what do you think needs to happen next?
The most important thing that we need from the U.S. business community and business community across our coalition are two things. One is we need manufacturers, be it microelectronics or machine tools, to step up their compliance efforts, but also to make sure that freight forwarders and their distributors do the same, because what we know is that the Kremlin has asked their intelligence services to find ways around our sanctions. Right. And the second one is for financial institutions who are the big correspondent banking relationships to look at small and medium-sized banks in the countries of concern for us, because we know the Kremlin is not using big banks anymore. They're trying to use these small and medium-sized banks.
Do you believe fundamentally that U.S. manufacturers and U.S. banks are either looking the other way or are complicit in some kind of effort to help the Russians?
No, I think the opposite is true. Every time I talk to a major CEO, they ask me what more can they do. The challenge we have is that the Russians are very good at trying to evade our sanctions, and that we need to do more because they're trying to learn from what we're doing here on our side. So I would say that U.S. CEOs, the ones I've talked to, have been patriotic and often come to me and asked, what else can we do? And I want to deliver that message, not just to the ones who are calling, but to all of these CEOs across our coalition, that what we need you to do is to pay more attention to your supply chains and also to the banks that you're working with.
Okay. Let's talk about the role of China as a chess piece in the situation in Ukraine, which is what kind of pressure they can bring to bear or not on Russia, and clearly they are not right now. But what kind of pressure do you think should be brought to bear in regard to this situation?
China has the ability to put a great deal of pressure on Russia, because without China, Russia's military-industrialized complex would grind to a halt. Today, the vast majority of the dual-use goods, like machine tools or engine parts that are getting to Russia's military-industrialized complex, are coming from China. What we told the Chinese is, you can have a robust economic relationship with the Russians, but for these select goods, we need to stop selling them to them. And if they did that, and if the Chinese said they would stop doing that, Russia wouldn't be able to build the weapons they want for the war they're fighting in Ukraine.
Both President Biden and former President Trump former President Trump has talked about big tariffs on China. President Biden has also talked about tariffs on China. There was a recent piece where he's interviewed about some of these tariffs in Time magazine. And there is a question mark about how much inflation, what are the inflationary effects of tariffs on China? President Biden says his tariffs are not inflationary, but suggests that former President Trump's, if they were to go into effect, would be inflationary. You're in the middle of this. What do you think?
I think you got to look at the difference in approaches. And there's two fundamental differences in the approach to what the previous administration did and what this administration is doing. We've taken a targeted approach to using tariffs, but we're not doing it just in the United States. We're working with our allies and partners to do it, so that we're actually putting real pressure on the Chinese from all sides. If you look at the statement that G7 just made, that was an important indicator that China's not only going to face tariffs from the United States, but from a collection of countries that want them to play on a level playing field. The second thing that we're doing is we're not doing them in a broad way that will increase taxes for the American people. I saw a recent report that said that an approach that put a 10% tariff across the board would be a $1,500 tax on each American. That's not something the president has done here, because our goal is to make sure that we create a level playing field for American firms and workers, and the best way to do that is not America alone, but America with our allies and partners.
I have a broader sort of domestic question, and it's a political question, which is, some polls suggest that a majority of Americans think we're in a recession right now. Which I would argue to you is misinformation of sorts. But then the question arises why they think that we're in a recession. I'm curious why you think that they may think that, and also to the extent that that's a messaging problem for the administration, why you think you've landed in that spot.
So as you know, Andrew, I don't do the politics. What I do is the economics. And what I know for most Americans is that we've been through a very tough period, not just here in the United States, but around the world with the pandemic. And while we're coming through that and our economy is doing better than any major economy in the world that is developed, there are still challenges that Americans face. But the thing that gives me confidence that we're making our way through it is 16 million Americans have decided to start small businesses. You don't start a small business if you don't have confidence about your ability to sell the goods and services that you have. We have record low unemployment, but we've still got to do more to make sure that those Americans who are still working to get past a pandemic that was hard have access to the goods, the services they need to make sure they can build the opportunity they want. So my view is that the challenge that the American people are facing is one that has to do with high costs, and we're doing a lot to try and bring those down. From what we're doing on prescription drugs, to advocating building more housing, to making sure that we bring down the cost of the goods they need. So my view is that we got to keep doing what we're doing.
I'm not going to ask you to comment on the Fed, but I am going to ask you to comment, and maybe it goes to the pricing issue, just on inflation broadly. There was a sense that things were getting under control, and now it appears from what we hear from Neil Kashkari and others that they're saying maybe there's a rate hike in the offing, which would suggest that they don't think that inflation's under control. Do you think it's under control?
So, as you mentioned, I'm not going to comment on the Fed.
You don't have to comment on the Fed.
But what I will say is that we all know that look at where we started. CPI got to 9.1. It's down to 3-something now. We expect it to continue to come down. But I think for most Americans, they're not paying attention to PCE or CPI. What they're paying attention to is what does it cost for me to get gas in my car? What does it cost for me to get food? What does it cost for me to get housing? On gas, it was at $5 a barrel in 2022 until we used the Strategic Petroleum Reserve and took actions to bring them down. Now it's about $3.50, so it's come down. On food, while the numbers there have gotten better, I think the most indicative thing is what you've seen Walmart and Target do in terms of starting to cut costs on products in their store, and we hope that more stores will do that. And then on housing, we've got to build more housing in this country, and that's what the president's advocating for us to do, and we expect to see those prices come down too. So we're focused on doing everything we can to bring down costs. We expect that inflation will also come down over time, and will leave to the Fed the decisions they need to make.